Hi, Amy Shannon from Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. And I was recently honored with the request to read this book called Broken Faces. It's written by co-authors Chris Karlsen and Jennifer Donner. And I must say that, well, for one, it's a very remarkable book. It's unique and it tells a story about a real life events that happened during World War One. And moving forward with that, it's just that it's a such a remarkable story in itself, but then that two authors can actually collaborate and write a story that seems like it's just kind of like all in one voice, but not like all the characters don't have the same voice, but kind of like you read a book and you have no idea which that you're switching from author to author, unless you know something behind the scenes kind of thing. So before I get into my review, in the beginning of the book, it had an excerpt from the actual story. And when I was reading that and got right into the story, I realized that this is what kind of it embodies what this whole story is about. There's a lot of different characters and variables. There's Danny and there's Colm and there's their family, and then there's Abby and her patients and her husband. There's a lot going on in the story, but you learn how their lives are separate and how they kind of meet um, in this crazy war-torn world when it's destroying lives all across the world. So I'm going to just read the excerpt and then I'll get into my review. Colm went to his brother and laid a hand on his shoulder. Turn around, Danny. There's no wound I haven't seen. Certainly nothing that has happened to you can alter my love for you. When he didn't move, Colm stepped around so they were face to face. His strong hold on the cane would leave a bruised palm. With his other hand, he dug his fingernails into that palm at the sight of his brother. Colm had seen worse facial injuries from battle, but nothing of those men were his baby brother. Danny's nose was gone from the bridge down. What little remained was reddish purple scar tissue. Like their mother, Colm, Danny, and Tildy had high cheekbones. Now Danny's one cheek had been crushed and flattened, so the entire area was sunken in. To look at him straight on, his face appeared lopsided. The scars of the tiny cuts around both cheeks encircled his eyes. Colm relaxed his fist in the grip on his cane. He forced a stiff set from his upper body. He didn't want to risk Danny sensing his shock. He took his brother in a tight embrace, patting him on the back the way brothers do. A tremble ran down Danny. There was a brief moment when Colm felt Danny let go of his agony before he stiffened again. Colm released him and gestured to the cot. Come, sit with me, let's talk. They sat on the bed together. Colm stopped a passing nurse. Would you be willing to bring us 2 cups of tea? The nurse looked quickly from Danny to Colm. I hope some family would come to see him. Her gaze dropped to Danny's damaged wrists and up again. I'll bring the tea. Thank you, Colm said, and gave her a faint smile of appreciation for understanding Danny's suffering, excuse me. As she left, Colm returned his attention to his brother. He wasn't sure Danny would discuss the injury, but he found that at the Royal it helped. The men found a modicum of relief, and so it seemed. Talk to me, Danny. Tell me how you were wounded. Danny didn't respond at first, and then he finally told Colm what happened. We were crossing no man's land. German artillery pounded us all around. Men were blown into the air, and trees exploded. Between the screams of the men and the roar from the trees blowing apart, I thought I'd be deaf by the time we reached the enemy trenches. Suddenly, a shell hit a tree near me. Debris went everywhere. I was hit in the face with a large branch. Splinters were deep and embedded all over my face, head, and shoulders. The surgeons in Paris said I was lucky to not have been blinded. after I saw the rest of the damage. I wish I had been. And this is, like I said, it is one of those very remarkable reads. And um, I am just, um, I was so honored to read it. I was very excited actually when I saw what the book was about. You know, of course, an author that I've reviewed for before, I'm not going to say, no, I won't read your book. I'm going to say yes. And then when I found out what it was about, I was very excited because I had heard about um, this type of artistry, of kind of using sculpture and masks to create a person's face. So I'm going to go on with the reading the review that I wrote. Um, I gave it 5 stars. If I could give them more stars, more than 5 stars, I would. First, I must say the authors write such an amazingly realistic story. I wanted to also make a note on how well the story was put together between the collaboration, the two authors. The story is seamless and it follows the lives of Abby and Colm, just for starters. Abby and Colm come from two different worlds, two different statuses in life, and two different countries. Then you insert World War One. Abby and Colm become part of the war-torn world. The reader learns about Colm's family and his backstory and his relationship with his mother, sister, and brother Danny. Danny enlists in the war so that he's not seen as a coward anymore. Abby finds herself in an arrangement of marriage where it seems only her husband can do what he wants. Abby sees her uh, world different from her parents, especially her father. Being in an arrangement or a contract of marriage is a loveless and lonely marriage unless you like the perks of being rich. The reader meets many persons along the way, and one of my favorites is Rosie, who's basically a servant but also a best friend of Abby. The world gets turned upside down for the characters, for their families, for the soldiers who live or die or just be. I have read Chris Karlsen's work before, and I do love this collaboration with her and Jennifer Connor. This story is based on factual events, such as artists of all kinds giving faces back to soldiers who lost them. Abby and Cole uh, give those to who have had their faces literally broken back to them, and it changes their lives and outlook on life. The end of the book shows faces literally broken back to them, and then I'm sorry. The end of the book shows real life stories and may be disturbing, but you get the need for Abby and Colm's artistry and humanity. It's a long read and it took me several days to read it, but not because I couldn't put it down, but because I had to put it down. It's worth every single read in the story, and this story should be shared. So this is definitely a high recommendation from Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. For me personally, this is a book that if I hadn't been asked to read it and I had seen it, I would be picking it up and buying it. And I did that. So I am very excited about this book. And I'm probably going to read it again and again. So this has been Amy Shannon from Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. Pick up your copy of Broken Faces by Chris Karlsen and Jennifer Connor. You won't be disappointed. Thank you.